Welcome to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Today we have Bates, offensive line coach at Argast, with us. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Nick. How are you?
I'm doing good. We kind of a mutual friend, your special teams coordinator, kind of hooked us up for the state clinic, which I want to say
Right.
thank you again for kind of presenting for our state clinic. We do, our state association does appreciate that, and you contributing to that. So I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't at least mention that in there as well for anybody that's not gotten on the state clinic. Coaches got some stuff on there as well. But I mean, you've had a long coaching journey. How did you end up? Oh, this is really back at Bates. I should phrase it that way.
Yeah. I started. I was working for an insurance company, and I was a year into it, and I got promoted, and I hated it. And a teammate of mine was the offensive line coach at Bates and was taking a GA spot at Dartmouth, and asked me if I wanted to coach football. That was 43 years ago. So I came to Bates for 2 years. From Bates, I got a full-time. I went to Princeton for a year. Then I got a full-time job at the Merchant Marine Academy. We had some success at Kings Point. I went back to my alma mater. I was there for 3 different head coaches and 4 trips to the playoffs, so it was a positive experience. When I left Colgate for a head coaching job at Canisius, and they dropped football shortly into my coaching tenure there. So from Canisius, I came to Wagner for a year. Then we went to Central Connecticut. Central Connecticut had been 16 straight losing seasons, and we won back-to-back championships our first 2 years there. And then we left there and went to Fordham. Fordham was 1-10 the year before we got there, and in the second year we were there, we won the Patriot League. So I had some success as a coordinator at that point. And then left Fordham for Columbia. Left Columbia for Bryant. They had a coaching change, and I didn't like the coaching change, so I left. I stayed for a year and just didn't like it, so I left. And the head coach got let go at Bryant, and I needed a job and wound up in Maine, back to Maine. UNE was starting a program, and it was fun. It was a good learning experience to be in a program from the ground up. Nobody knew anything. Was there for 3 years. I really liked it there, but a good friend of mine became the head coach at Bates, and it was a chance for me to go back to where I started. So giving him a hand here as the associate head coach and offensive line coach.
Okay, Coach. Like I said, and that's one of the things we talked about when I got you for the state clinic. You got a wide variety of experiences there, and a lot of them are very good academic institutions, as we kind of already talked about as well. And I've also talked to your head coach as well. He's a really good dude.
Great guy.
Does
Yeah.
some great. I mean, you guys just have a fantastic staff up there. And thankfully, you guys are going to be allowed to at least practice this spring, so you can kind of get ready for the fall. But I mean, kind of what I wanted to talk to you about, because I'm a big gap scheme guy in general. Obviously, Gap Down Backer is the name of the podcast. But I wanted to talk to you because we talked a little bit about scheme through text, and I wanted to talk about ISO because it's slowly become one of my favorite plays over the past couple of years. And I'm going to kind of let you share the screen so you can kind of get started into it, Coach. And then we can kind of grind through and talk about it and watch some film and have some fun with it.
Okay. ISO it's an interesting play. I haven't run a lot of it when I started getting into the no huddle stuff, and then we kind of came back to it a little bit at UNE. But again, we talked about my experience there. In terms of schemes, I was a wing T guy. I played in the wing T, and I coached the wing T. My first job at Merchant Marine Academy. At Colgate, we were traditional ISO power toss. So we lived and died by the ISO, by the power, by the toss play. When I went to Canisius, I brought Colgate's offense with me, kind of worked in the read RPO stuff at Central Connecticut and Fordham. And then at Bryant, we were more traditional ISO, toss, power deal. And then again at UNE, we're back to I think a blend of both. I went back and I looked at the tailback yardage in the 4 years I was the coordinator. And, In year one, our tailbacks had 1,603 yards. In year two, they had 1,353. And then 1424 in year one at Central Connecticut, and 1324, and then 1094. So we've had success. We've had a lot of success with the, most of that, or a good part of that. I shouldn't say most of it. A good part of it was ISO. Okay. The term ISO is short for isolation. It refers to a single blocker on the play side defender. We're going to isolate the play side linebacker. The ISO, there's three different types of schemes: zone, man, and gap. Okay, and ISO can get very complicated, very, very complicated. But if you simplify it to blocking the down lineman and the backside inside backer, you can scheme it up against anything. And the thing with ISO is you've got to introduce the scheme every week, because it could be a little bit different, because it is tied into the alignment of the defense, and you're gonna like to play against certain fronts, or you're not gonna like it against. The backfield sets, wing T routes, belly lead is really ISO.
Yeah.
Okay. When I learned belly lead, with the halfback leading through on the linebacker and the fullback, the belly path, the reverse pivot, and the belly path of the fullback took care of the timing between the first block and the fullback getting the ball. There's got to be some kind of separation there. Okay, in traditional I formation with a lead blocker, okay, the same thing with the reverse pivot. He buys time again to create separation, okay, and depth of the tailback, creates vision for the tailback. So you don't want to get the ball. You don't want the exchange to happen too soon. You don't want the tailback on top of the lead blocker, and you don't. You want the lead blocker. You want the tailback to have some vision there. So I think that's an important element of it. Okay, pistol kind of gives you the best of both worlds. Okay, it's the flexibility. It creates the reads to either side, and it allows for the tailback vision and consistency in footwork. And I transitioned from a spread no huddle, or from an I formation to a spread no huddle deal, and it's different footwork for the tailback. When you're in an offset one way or the other, there's different aiming points. It's just a different. I think the play takes on a different kind of character. If you go back in the pistol, now you don't have to have different reps. Your guys getting consistent reps, from downhill deal, and it also comes into play on what kind of tailback you have. Okay, place a 2-man blocking scheme play side, okay, and then a 3-man surface play side. Okay, that'll create different schemes for you. ISO to the tight end and ISO to the split end, open end, is a different play. It's similar. It has a lot of the carryover, but it's still a different scheme that your kids have to learn.
Yeah, I agree, Coach, because from my experience, because that's like we were wing T the past couple of years, and that was kind of the thing. Like, unlike, say, like zone left and zone right, it's fairly the same scheme, whether you have a tight end there or not, for the most part, like inside zone. Whereas
Right.
as when you're talking ISO, it's the blocking has to change for running it weak or strong side at that point.
It does. Yeah, it does. So you can have a 2, 3, or 4-man surface, or you can read it on the backside. You can also read the third level if you've had the box blocked. We got into a lot of third level safety reads. If you do that, the unblocked guy you have to have the box blocked. You can't not block the box and have a free guy in the box because you're reading the safety. So, that involves some scheming. If you read the second level, all right, you must have a way to replace the second level with a receiver. Okay, that's just pretty simple. I think simple and straightforward. So here's a couple looks. Here's to a 3 ISO to the weak side, to an inside shade on the guard. Okay, so the center is going to take care of the Mike linebacker here. We're going to ISO the Will, and then the Sam will be blocked by the tackle guard combination, or if he's wider, then the tackle will step out to the tight end and help the tight end. And the the inclination is to help the tight end because he's usually your weaker blocker. But if you can't block a 9 technique, then you're playing with the wrong guy. you know. So we'll get pushed. We like to get double teams wherever we can. We'll get pushed on the down guy and come off on that backer there. Okay, and then if you're doing it to a nose, I like the uphill double team because you can keep your leverage there. Whereas when you scoop, okay, like on our next picture, when you scoop, there's a really good chance that that backside backer is going to get over the top because it's uphill for us, okay? And whereas the down block double team is downhill for us, and we can keep that leverage. So there's a look at it there. And then where's the will? Okay, downhill double equals leverage. Uphill double creates flow. And then that gets into who are we keying? I've talked a lot about, I started out keying the open gap, okay? Have vision in the open gap. And then, I listed David Walker. I don't know if you've ever heard him speak, and he was excellent. And we got into keying the open gap, but knowing where that backside linebacker is, because that's the guy that's making the tackle. And you'll see a couple cuts on the clips on the cut up where that backside backer flies over the top, and our tailback sees it and cuts back, and he's running to the air. There's nobody there. He's left. So when you throw 2 tight ends in, now you got a lot of stuff going on here. And then when people start bringing safeties down in the box, you got to make people aware of it. So you can get as sophisticated with your ISO schemes as you want, or as simplistic. And we tried to keep it simplistic. When you get in a pistol with no tight end, you're going to get X amount of surfaces, so your kids can get the same amount of reps. And I'm a big believer in, you can teach anything, but once a kid's got to think past step 3, he's not going to play. He's going to slow down.
Now, curiosity, when you put this together, because you mentioned blocking against different fronts, is it you need to know the front and that's how you'll block it, or is there specific rules so we can make like your guard make specific calls like in the wing tee?
No, we didn't. I tried to eliminate the calls when not necessary.
Okay.
So we didn't make calls on that. We just knew which linebacker we're going to. That's the call we made.
Okay.
All we make coming up is what linebacker is the offensive line responsible for, and then where they're going to get there, how they're going to get to that guy. Then the calls would come in. Chip, scoop, those kind of things.
Okay.
But our center comes out and he identifies in every run play, every pass play, which linebacker the offensive line is responsible, because that's how we phrase our rules. We have the 4 down and the backside linebacker. Then it makes it pretty easy. Really, when the kids get confused, and think about this, when the tight end is on the backside, or we go 2 tight ends, there's a ton of different looks that tight end could get on the backside. So you just got to make sure you cover those and find a way to say it simple. You're responsible for X. And you're going to see there's one clip, best path to the backside linebacker. That's what his, the 8th guy in the box, that was his rule one year. And you can see how he sorts it out. And actually on the clip that you're going to see, he doesn't do that. He winds up, he gets nervous and he blocks the corner. So the creating more formations out of this, or when you create this out of more formations, creates more issues for you to remember.
Okay.
So I've evolved to, for me, it's a pistol play with a lead blocker.
All right.
Some considerations. All right. What type of tailback do you have? Is he a physical north short runner? Okay. Or is he an east-west speed and shake guy? If he's a physical guy, get in the pistol. If he's a speed guy, I would say get in the offset, because the threat of speed sweep and outside runs is something people have to defend if that's the kind of guy that you have. Okay, can your quarterback play with his eyes? Okay, or does he guess? If he plays with his eyes, then you can run RPOs and reads. If he guess, then those RPOs turn into play action pass. If those reads turn into called quarterback runs. And Nick, in 42 years, the defense got to defend both. They don't know what you're going to do. So your alignment and the threat of reading it will slow the defense down.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if you just get in the I formation, there's nothing to slow them down with. You follow me?
Yeah.
Then they know it's play action pass, or they know it's triple option or whatever. But once you offset that halfback, now you're into the read game. It hurts your bootleg game because they're going to slow the backside end down. So that's something to be conscious of. My second year at Central Connecticut, we had 531 yards in called quarterback runs. Okay, with almost 1,100 yards for tailback runs. So it creates a third back. Whether you're reading it or whether you're calling it, these things create a third back for you. And then things you got to talk about are split and alignment. We cheat our splits. If there's a guy next to you, you're 2 feet. If there's nobody in that gap, you're 3 feet. Open the gap up. And people they may catch on, I don't know, but it hasn't really hurt us. And we're back off the ball a little bit because of the zone game.
Now, I mean, you mentioned splits a little bit there while you're pulling up the film. How much do you guys mess with like smart splits on your line so you can kind of leverage like your down blocking angles and other stuff?
Whatever makes our kids feel comfortable.
Okay.
I'll let them cheat because that's what's important. Where our kids feel like they can execute what we're going to do. I don't care if the defense knows it. They got to defend everything. I'll be quiet during the wide cuts. So we're going to get a double team with the left guard and center, 2 base blocks with the right guard and the right tackle. Base blocks front side with the left guard and tackle. With the tight end and left guard, and then there's your lead blocker. And you see that backside backer, he's the guy where our aiming point is the open gap.
Yeah.
And then we're going to see peripherally, we're going to see the backside linebacker.
Yeah. Well, from my experience, that double team has to get either push or somebody be able to chip off to get to that backside.
Right. Exactly. Which I think is easier when you're coming downhill at it as opposed to scooping it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I've seen teams. I see guys like both, and I see the advantages and disadvantages of both. The problem is the scoop doesn't always necessarily get there.
That's what I mean. You got to read the flow in the scoop, definitely. But here we leverage them here. Because you got a one technique, so that's pretty good. That's good vision by the.
Yeah.
I try not to overcoach the tailbacks. What I tell them is one cut and put your foot in the ground and go. Usually, if they cut 2 or 3 gaps, they're going to get tackled.
Yeah.
Here's a uphill scoop on the backside, and we don't get there. It's a good job of the tailback staying on his path, seeing the backer and trying to come behind him. The advantage, too, of running this, if you're a spread team, is it changes the tempo. The ball carrier almost climbs on the defense quicker than it would in zone plays. So you can kind of, I like jumping in this in a quick hurry up huddle deal, line up and run it, and you kind of jump the defense a little bit. This is just a straight ahead deal here.
Coach, I think your center does a great job at.
Yeah, he does.
chipping and climbing. That's a fantastic.
Yeah, he was a good player. This is against Coastal Carolina, I think.
Good cut. Go back to that, Coach. For me.
So this is a little scheme. This is a cross scheme here. I don't know why our tight end is confused on this play.
I'm just confused by the defensive alignment, Coach. That's what. I think that might be the problem. Is the alignment you saw there was a little odd.
A little screwed up.
Yeah, I mean a nose and what was that, like a 7-eye? That's a bit.
Yeah, that's the problem you run into with ISO out of multiple formations. Is you're going to get some looks that you can't fucking cover.
Yeah.
You know, which is why if you have a gap on outside rule, it helps. This tailback was actually a fullback who was just a good football player. He just finds a little seam in there and gets 4 yards. I didn't want to jump that far ahead there.
Good, Coach. I like as I'm watching this because I mean, as a wing T team, we've done more scooping than true double. But I'm just noticing how important that double to the backside is. Just, and I'm kind of repeating myself, but it's just how well that was coached is just impressive.
I mean, this guy almost stems out of his hole there. You see it?
Yeah.
All right, here is the spread version of ISO.
Now, how much change did that cause for you when you went from as you evolved this over the years? How much did that change your blocking and or maybe offensive line technique?
In going the spread as opposed to just being in the eye?
Yeah, instead of running under the eye. Did that cause any true changes in terms of line blocking or technique?
Just that I've cut down the formations I'm going to run ISO out of.
Okay.
You know, right now it'll be a short yardage 2 tight end play for us, but then it will be a no tight end fullback lead play for us. So that reduces the number of reps we need to get at it. We don't need to look at 6 different ISOs each week.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that cuts your teaching down so your kids get used to what you're doing. And by week 2, they're telling me what to do. Which is what you want. Yeah. I mean, that's really what you want. But for Division III offensive line, these kids were pretty good. They weren't as athletic, but they were tough kids and they were smart. So this is just another wrinkle, Nick. Let the motion guy be the lead blocker. There's plenty of teams that motion the guy and let him block off the backside edge. Not many lead him up into the hole. Now, and it can be pretty effective.
Now, I'm looking at both your, whether it be your tackle, your tight end, your edge guys, is what we'll all call them. Is their main focal point is to just force the outside box defenders wide? Is that kind of the main focal point for you? Is don't let anybody cross your face and just push them upfield?
Yes.
Okay.
Keep the box clean. Yes.
Okay.
Well, this is a great job by the motion guy. Watch the motion guys block.
I think that's because we did a lot of that with our wing T stuff, like with our, like slide motion with one of
Mm-hmm.
our wings. I thought that was some of our best stuff. That use motion to get an extra lead blocker in there, especially for what we call belly, which is ISO for you guys. Just
Right.
I think that's the best way to go
Any
personally.
kind of movement on offense makes the defense
Yeah.
play slower. They got to play slower. They got to figure out what to do. I mean, this is great because we don't have a lot of defenders over here, you know. I mean, they're counting on the safety to make that block.
And you know as I do, so when you're talking Division II, Division III college football, that's not always a guaranteed thing as it is in Division I.
I'll take that play any day.
Yeah. What? I'm confused by the field, Coach. Is that a baseball?
Yeah, that's at the other school in Maine, and it's on their baseball field. Basically.
Okay. I looked at it. I'm just like, I'm confused here for a second. That's interesting. Okay. There you go.
So I have a couple RPOs coming up here, which are interesting. You'll see.
Now, how easy was, curiosity as we get to those, how easy of a transition was that for you from a time management standpoint and other factors to add the RPOs and the ease of install for them?
For me, when I was in charge, it was easy because I would take a day. Here's how you have to game plan for RPOs. What are your best runs? How are people defending them? How are they reacting to them? And then if they're reacting them where they're coming into the box at a high pace, and you'll see, then you can tag an RPO to your main play and have it be effective. They can't do both. They can't stop your best run and defend an RPO off of it. It's just impossible. But if you're just going to scheme up an RPO based on what you do, you don't know if it's going to work or not.
Okay.
Because you don't know how the key to RPOs is the reaction of the defense to that backfield action and what the quarterback's doing. So you'll see some pretty good examples of it. Are you still wing T now, Nick?
No. No, I've switched schools since then. I took an OC job this offseason. We will be we will be in the gun. As much as I enjoy the wing T, that's just
it's a good way to learn football.
Oh yeah, I've spent a little over more. How do I want to phrase this? I've spent probably a little over half my career in either double wing or wing T, and probably 7 of the 10 years in primary gap schemes.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been in really. I don't know. I mean, outside of like my first 2 years, we haven't really been. It's all been gap or man schemes. That's really what it's been everywhere I've been. I'm trying to actually think back now outside those 2 years. I mean, I know when I was on the defensive side at Westland, I think we ran a little bit of zone, but we were mostly a power read team that year. Our head coach loved power read, and we had a quarterback and a running back that could just run the crap out of it. Our quarterback that year was a bulldozer. Yeah, I mean, actually, really, probably 2 of the years of the 10 were zone. But we also had.
Here's something you got to talk about. You see this backer walking up?
Yeah.
You got to make a decision. Is he up tight enough to treat him as a down lineman?
Yeah.
Or is your fullback going to be able to take care of him? That's just a personnel thing.
And is there a communication aspect when people start moving on you for the line and the backs to know what's going on for that?
No, they're usually on the same page.
Okay. It's more from like practice reps and kind of simulate that in practice. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so we watch film, and they like to get their guy in the box, right? So we're going to read them. We're going to pull it and throw it. There's nobody yet. Now it's one-on-one with the safety, which I'll take any day. But this play was game planned off of watching them do this, getting extra guys in the box during the course of a play. Tough to defend both. So the quarterback saw the safety cheating over a little bit. And even though this is a read, he knew he was going to pull it. He's cheating over to the middle of the field. The outside guy's cheating down. That's his read. Bang. That's like too easy. And there's a little bit of an art to the RPOs. I tell our kids, I tell our quarterback coach, I don't care if he throws 10 incompletes in practice. We can't let people gang up in the box on us.
Yeah.
Just can't let it happen.
Scroll that back, coach. So you're just for that. You're just reading the front side, inside, all the play
front
side,
inside here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. That's pretty simple. Just a slant.
That's a pretty easy window. Look at that window. I think there's one more after this.
Okay. Now, what is your quarterback at there? Is his heels at 5? What is your standard rule for the pistol and the gun?
Heels at 5.
Heels at 5, okay.
Yeah.
I know everybody's a little different on where their feet are. Some are toes at 5, heels at 5, toes at 4.5.
Well, here we're reading the will linebacker. See it?
Yeah.
2 steps. It's all it takes. With that alignment of the corner, their underneath coverage is creeping out of there. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And we don't tell our linemen anything different other than the backside tackle on RPOs. We don't want a guy running through free. But everybody else, we're blocking the play.
Okay. Well, that works, Coach. That makes perfect sense. So, last couple questions before we wrap up. Obviously, that's evolved for you over the course of your career. And you mentioned reading it as well. Is there anything that how do I want to word this? What do you think is the kind of the next evolution of it, since you've kind of seen it evolve from wing T to I formation to pistol. I know you can do like quarterback ISO with it too out of the gun, but is there anything else that, because obviously you don't want to get too formationally with it, with how you block it, because it just creates some conflicts.
Here's what I found, Nick, and our offensive coordinator is, he was with me my first 3 years, and then we separated, and he went out and learned every offense in the world. And you can get to a point where you have too much.
Okay.
You've got to kind of decide what you are. And what you are is really going to be based on what kind of players you can get. And can you get kids to do the things that you want to be able to do? If you don't have a quarterback who can play with his eyes, then just call it. Just call different things. If you have a quarterback who's a 5'4" 40, don't be running the ball with him. Let him hand it to somebody who's fast. So, I think, necessity is the mother of invention. I think as you grow as a coach and you evolve, you're going to gravitate towards certain things. And you got to remember, people are doing things for a reason, not just because they worked against somebody.
Yeah.
It's because their kids can do that, in its productive form. So there's a lot of give and take, a lot of experimenting going on in the course of your career, where you're going to find, I'm going to gravitate towards this because it's worked before, and that's okay. That's okay, as long as where you're at now, the same factors are involved with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes 100% sense. And I got two more questions for you before we wrap up, Coach. You showed a couple formations there. Like I said, you keep it very simple with your formations. But do you have a personal preference of which one you think gives you the best advantage from your experience?
This is what I do each week. I watch on Sunday. I'm just going to watch games. I'm just going to watch people line up and look at personnel and stuff, and then see what formations put their defense into an advantageous spot for it. So the formation I like are the ones each week that I feel will work against them, and also that our kids are comfortable with.
Okay. And then the last thing I got for you, because I'm asking a lot of offensive coaches this, is do you guys, or whether you, because I know you're still fairly new there at Bates, or any of your recent spots, do you track explosive plays as the seasons go on? And then what do you consider explosive plays, and then what do you specifically look at?
We were looking at runs over 10 and passes over 20.
Okay. Now do you look at, when you're looking at explosive plays, do you look at what plays were explosive against the opposing defense in prior film you had as well? Is that something you specifically look at?
The last thing I'll watch on Sunday night are big plays against the opponent we're going to play.
Okay.
So I'll watch a cut up that has, productive plays, 4 runs, 4 yards or more, passes 12 more yards or more, and then I'll look at big play deals. And that gives me kind of a feel for where their weaknesses are, All
right. No, like I said, that's something I've been looking at, because I've been reading some studies on some stuff and some other information that I'm just kind of curious about. So I want to see what everybody's got a little bit different number for explosive plays. I'm trying to figure out. I'm like I said, I'm just curious, because I'm starting to look at data for a variety of things as we're putting stuff together. So, well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on. It was fun. I always like watching film. Here, coaches, make sure you give Coach a follow on Twitter. Coach's Twitter will be in the bio. If you want to support the channel, link to our Patreon, I can never pronounce it correctly, is down below. If you want to support the channel, help make sure the stuff keeps running, and take care of some new equipment for the channel. It also gives you access to some extra bonus stuff. And then thank you again for listening. Also, give this video a like, share it so people can see it, so we can spread Coach's information, and so people can get a hold of him.
Coach Hall and I have a podcast every Sunday called Frostbite Football. We have some great guests. We just had Mark Murphy, the president of the Green Bay Packers, on. And then this past week was the offensive line coach at Villanova, Sean Devine. So We've got some pretty good guests. It's about football and life. It's not a lot of X's and O's, but it's hopefully a lot of common sense. And you can get it on Spotify. Frostbite Football on Spotify.
And coaches, that link will be in the bio of this video as well. And then any of you that follow us on the Facebook group, I know Coach Hall has started putting the link to that in there as well, if you've not seen it yet as well. So please check that out. Like I said, Coach Hall and Coach Argast are awesome guys, and please make sure you reach out to them. Thank you again.